America is the greatest country in the world. Thanks for being here. Welcome to our special, The Devil and DEI. We're all caught up on DEI, what that is now, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. The newest iteration as colleges and companies say, oh, we got rid of DEI, and they just replaced it with something called belonging, departments of belonging. Same filth, new name. This was a woke way of seeing the world as oppressed versus the oppressors. This is the Marxist worldview. It's the entirety of their worldview, where everything is a battle between the oppressed people that are oppressed by the oppressors. And it is the job of the oppressors to now take, they're like white cisgendered men, basically. It is the job of those people to now take the lowest seat at the table and give the oppressed more power, the historically marginalized. You'll hear them say that. Give those oppressed people more power and also tear down the competent. Example, Zohran Mamdani, his director of appointments, in 2016 it was unearthed, tweeted, "It's important that white people feel defeated." So don't for one second think that this is about just lifting up the marginalized. It's also about tearing down the competent. In 2020, she said, "For so long, power has been in the hands of men and or white people, and it has brought us ruin." Now, in these woke DEI people, they got a lot of power over the last decade or so. And they got a lot of companies, a lot of people to go along with this, whether it was through force or shame or threat of cancellation or violence or a thing called shareholder capitalism, which forced businesses to implement these policies. And the left was unbelievably successful at doing this. This is a chart from Bloomberg where they calculated that 94% of jobs in the S&P 100, 94% of new jobs went to people of color. And all the new jobs went to Asians, black people, and mostly Hispanics. Now, here is the most important question of all of this. This is it. This is the key question that everyone's a little scared to ask. Were these people who were hired, these people of color, were these people of color qualified? Just in the past, they were never given the chance to succeed? But now that they're given this opportunity, they are thriving. They're thriving. Companies are thriving. Businesses are thriving. Oh my God. I can't believe we had all this latent potential in our nation. We overlooked it because we were so racist and we didn't hire these people of color. But now that we have, oh my gosh, things are gangbusters. Or were these people not qualified and never were and still aren't? For instance, just a question. I don't know this one yet because it just happened. But Zohran Mamdani just appointed the new head of the FDNY, the fire department. Is this gay woman the best possible choice in all of New York for the head of the FDNY? It's New York. You could pull from the country. Is she the best person? No one's better. And she's only been overlooked because she's gay. She's going to thrive and everyone's going to thrive. And like, oh, I can't believe we overlooked her all these years. Or is she given the job only because she's gay? Worth noting, she's never been a firefighter. So the question is, can we look back at the DEI era? Let's call it the last 10 years, right? Let's say 2020 or 2015 to 2025. That's pretty good. Can we look back on that era and say, have things gotten better or did things get worse? You can pick your metric, movies, novels, newspapers, academic journals, whatever. Did all those things get better as we hired more people of color, the DEI hires? Or did things get worse? I'll give you an example. One of my favorite DEI stories. This one goes back, actually. This is goes back in the late 60s, early 70s. There were all these accusations that symphonies and orchestras were discriminating against black people. Lots of lawsuits brought by black clarinet players saying, oh, you discriminating. You didn't hire me or any other black people because we're black. So the symphony said, all right, we're going to institute blind auditions. You are literally going to perform behind a curtain We cannot see your skin color. We are only going to listen to the music that you make and judge you only by that. So they did that. And in the end, even more Asians and white people got the jobs with the blind auditions. So the New York Times in 2020 wrote a headline, "To make orchestras more diverse, end blind auditions." So are you with me on that story? People of color said, no, people of color, fine, let's do blind auditions. They did blind auditions. Even fewer people of color, let's end blind auditions and now be actively racist to make sure orchestras are more diverse. Now, the ultimate DEI story of all, I know we've shared this one in greater detail before, so I'll go quick. Dr. Patrick Chavis is a black physician before he was a physician, he was just a black guy, admitted to UC Davis Medical School. This is 1973. And he was admitted under what they called the Special Minority Admissions Program. This was early affirmative action. And a white student sued. He's like, hold on, I'm way more qualified than this guy. That's racist. You can't do that. It went to the Supreme Court. Now, the white guy won, but the black student was allowed to stay in medical school. And he was held up as the affirmative action guy, and like the evidence that affirmative action is awesome because this guy's so amazing. He's an amazing student, the best doctor. This is what affirmative action is for. This guy. Senator Ted Kennedy was all about him. Called him the perfect example of affirmative action. He was held up in news articles and news stories. Like, this is the guy. This is the face of affirmative. Finally, we got black people have the option now to be medical students. Long story short, he became a doctor and he was sued for malpractice 21 times. He botched so many operations, he killed patients, left some in permanent pain. One patient he hid in his home for 2 days after she nearly bled to death at his clinic. All right, so that one didn't turn out great. Okay, now that's an extreme, but put it on the spectrum. Is it more like this, what happens with DEI hires? Or do they turn out to be amazing? Jacob Savage wrote an article in Compact magazine called The Lost Generation. This article got a lot of attention. J.D. Vance praised it. He wrote a tweet. He said, a lot of people think DEI is lame diversity seminars, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, or racial slogans at NFL games. But in reality, this is the vice president. It was a deliberate program of discrimination, primarily against white men. This is an incredible piece that describes the evil of DEI and its consequences. He later says, this is why the Trump administration has so dedicated itself to eradicating racist discrimination. We've eliminated funding for DEI, required government grantees to certify that they're not engaged in DEI, fired a number of DEI employees, and asked the Department of Justice to aggressively prosecute all forms of racial discrimination. For too many Democrat leaders, racial discrimination was bad unless it targeted white men. This was an injustice, plain and simple, and this essay explains why. So the author of this essay, he went to Hollywood to become a TV writer. He says when he moved to LA in 2011, so this is right before like max wokeness, men were 48% of TV writers. By the end of the woke era, 2024, they were just 11%, 48 down to 11. The Atlantic, the magazine, their editorial staff was 53% male, 89% white in 2013. In 2024, 36% male and 66% white. Everything falling. White men fell from 39% of tenure track positions at Harvard to 18%. So the whole article, it's worth reading, called The Lost Generation. More and more detail about how every major cultural institution, every major business, every major media outlet, everyone in Hollywood, everyone in academia, tripping over themselves to hire only people of color for about 10 years, which by definition boxed out an entire generation of white men. He highlights Yale. Since 2018, only 14% of tenure track assistant professors hired at Yale have been American men. That's in the humanities, it's 7%. How about med school? In 2014, white men were 31% of med school students. 31%. By 2025, they were just 20%. That's a 10 percentage point drop in just a decade. This is racism. I am against racism. It's unwise because we should be hiring only on merit. When you incentivize something, you get more of it. And right now in our culture, for the last 10 years, we've been incentivizing being weird or being oppressed. You get more points if you're queer, indigenous, trans, whatever. When really you should only be getting points if you're competent and responsible and reliable and all the other virtues that we want more of in America. Let me take a break here because we have great guests coming up. There's huge practical problems with DEI, life and death problems. It's all based on feelings. We've got great guests that will share some stories coming up throughout the show here. But I just want to end with the solution here. The solution is high standards for everyone. Everyone is capable of meeting a higher standard. Keep the standards high. And if people have trouble meeting those high standards, our goal should be to lift up everyone as much as we can so they can meet the standards, not to lower the standards. For example, lately, last 10 years, still now in California, we eliminate honors classes. There are honors classes and we're getting rid of them to make the kids who aren't in them feel better about themselves. That's not raising the standards for everyone, that's lowering the standards. And we all lose when we play that game. We need higher standards and we need to encourage everyone to meet them all. True merit, that is the American way. I want to go right to someone who's doing something about it on the ground. Andrew Crapuchettes, he's the CEO of RedBalloon. Andrew, how are you, sir?
I'm doing really well. Nice to talk to you.
Good to talk to you. What is RedBalloon?
Yeah, RedBalloon. RedBalloon came from my story. I actually was the CEO of a large tech company, and in 2020, my board decided I was too conservative and Christian for their liking. So I found myself delightfully unemployed, and I thought, well, if this is going to happen to me, it's going to happen to a lot of other Americans who are going to have to make a choice between their job and their values, and I don't think that is right. And so RedBalloon was founded for freedom in the workplace. So we help companies hire values-aligned employees. We help employees find companies that will respect their freedom and allow them to just focus on work and merit and all the good things that made America great in the first place. So that's what RedBalloon's all about. We help everybody from Daily Wire and Steak and Shake to mom and pops who really just want to hire great employees, find those great people.
Oh, that's great. So it's like a job posting board, or what services? How does it work?
Yeah, so we have a job board and you can post jobs. We also have a full cycle recruiting service, so we can help you find the right employee. We can go through the entire interview process for you and just bring you the person that's going to not only be a skill fit, but a culture fit. And then we have a lot of hiring automation software because DEI and AI are actually causing a wreck of the labor market right now. And so we're using a lot of tools and technology and actually using AI to push back against some of the ridiculousness that's happening in the workplace right now. Basically, HR tech is the most liberal industry in the world today, and they love DEI. And so we are bringing tools and technology that is allowing companies to push back against that while still hiring really great people. So we're a technology company that includes a job board, recruiting services, and all the things you need to make sure you get great employees.
It's great. Way to see a problem and do something about it. I've never heard this term before, though. What is HR tech?
Oh, HR tech. So there's a whole lot of different businesses in HR tech. So it ranges from ATSs to HRIS, which is HR Information Systems, payroll services. Basically, if you take HR companies, HR is one of those liberal areas where you find a lot of Karens, unfortunately, and then you bring it with the tech, and the tech bros have traditionally been left-leaning. And if you take HR and tech and you put them together, their child is this horrible industry that is pushing a worldview through their algorithms. And I'll give you a couple examples of this. So Greenhouse is one of the largest ATSs, applicant tracking systems. This is hiring automation software. This is software designed to help companies go through the entire hiring process and make it efficient and effective, right? But they have DEI baked into their entire process when it comes to that hiring process. So what that means is they're going to give you diversity nudges along the way. In other words, white males, people like me, are going to be put at the bottom of the list when you are applying for a job, and they're going to decide that a skin deep diversity is what your company needs, whether you want it or not, and they're going to only recommend candidates who fit their social ideology. And so this is basically algorithms being pushed on companies all over the United States today. If you think that Facebook and Google for many years use their algorithms to push their worldview, you're right. HR tech does it even more, and they do it, unfortunately, a little more subversively because you don't even know it's happening. So one of our customers realized that their HR tech company, the software they were using, the software they were buying, was actually looking at the profiles of the candidates that were applying for their jobs and discriminating against them based on their skin color or based on their religious preferences. So all bad stuff. And the goal of RedBalloon is to build $1 billion business that redeems the world of work in the HR tech space.
Great. When someone works at a company, big or small, that embraces this DEI stuff, why is that bad for them? Why is this bad for their soul? Why is it bad for their life?
Yeah, absolutely. So DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, those are actually not bad words. And in fact, if you use them all by themselves, they're fairly Christian or religious words, right? It's okay to actually have diversity of thought, diversity of idea, diversity of opinion within your business. In fact, that's very healthy. But when these words are used as weapons against conservatives, that's where we get the problem. And basically what they say is that you should not be valued in the workplace apart from the parents that you have, apart from your sexual preferences, apart from your background, where we believe, because we're Americans, we're hardworking, we believe you should be valued based on the merit that you bring to the job. So the hard work you do should have a huge impact on your ability to get a promotion, a raise, and be able to succeed at that business. Whereas DEI basically says those things don't matter. What does matter is these immutable characteristics about you. And what it does is it puts everybody in an extremely awkward position. So I'm just going to call it out. If you are Black and you get a promotion, if you are a hardworking person who earned that, everyone's like, well, did you get that because you're just matching a DEI quota? Or did you get that because you actually worked hard and you earned it the way that it should work in the workplace? And so it actually discriminates against everybody. It puts everybody looking sideways at each other, because fundamentally what DEI is, it's Marxism. Excuse me. DEI is Marxism. It is basically saying, I'm going to tell you about yourself, your coworkers, and the world around you, and we're going to judge you based on immutable characteristics, not based on hard work and achieving something. And when you do that, it basically doesn't allow anyone to trust each other, because they don't know that the person actually did the work to get the job.
That's great. And that was one of the original arguments back in the 70s, at the beginning of affirmative action in colleges, that professors made. It's like, this is a really bad idea for the exact reason you just articulated there. And we see the fruit of it now. Still haven't learned our lesson. But now I think we have. But just to go back, and then we'll talk more about the future, how strong in the peak of DEI and how formal was the pressure to conform to DEI for companies?
Yeah, one study said that 84% of hiring managers were told to preference people who were minorities, whether that be female minorities or racial minorities or sexual minorities, whether it's gay or lesbian or LGBTQ, alphabet soup, whatever it is, right? So 84% of hiring managers were told that they need to preference those people in the hiring process. Well, what does that do? That distorts your workplace. It basically is telling the hiring manager, don't hire the best person for the job. Hire the person who matches these demographic categories. And that's very, very dangerous, not only for the people who didn't get the job, but also for the people who did get the job, because they now may be in a job where they're totally over their heads. And I'm not saying that you should say that, white people are better at things or men are better at things, or that's not the point. The point is hire the best person for the job, period, not based on these other categories. And when you do that, it's actually a compliment to everyone. We all know this. Like when you're a kid and you're playing a sport, if you are fighting a really hard team, working on a really hard team, and you win the game, that's how you build confidence. That's how you build strength in your team, is to do a hard thing together because you know you've worked hard at it. But if you are just getting the win because of who you are, not because of the hard work you put into it, it's actually demoralizing. It's demoralizing for the workplace and for the individual workers.
That's great. Even little kids realize that. Great job, Johnny. And Johnny's like, not really. I didn't do a great job.
Not really.
On that,
I know that you didn't keep score or whatever it is. Like they want to do a hard thing where they could lose and then they win. That's how you build confidence in people.
That's great. We've got about a minute. Tell us a little more about your backstory. You said you were like, how Christian, how conservative were you that got you in trouble at your workplace?
Yeah, and I've actually started and sold. I think I've had 7 successful exits over the years. So I've been blessed to start a bunch of businesses, and I see business as an opportunity to bless people at scale. When I was building my last business, I did not discriminate against hiring. I did not discriminate in customers, and I didn't actually have any complaints from my employees or my customers. But I was an unapologetic conservative Christian, and when new employees came into the business, I said, this is how I'm going to run the business. It's not a prerequisite. It's not a weird thing, but it's an opportunity for you to know what you're getting into. And we had a very healthy culture that was high performing. So we were growing 25% a year on a 40% margin, and everybody was having a really good time. But unfortunately, it was 2020, and they wanted me to start talking about COVID, talking about black squares and BLM and things I just was unwilling to do. And so they said that I was a conservative Christian because I wouldn't do what they told me to do. And okay, it's true.
I know this next venture will be just as successful. Andrew Crapuchettes, how can people learn more about RedBalloon?
Yeah, you can go to redballoon.work because we thought that .com sounded too much like communism. So we wanted work, not communism. So redballoon.work. I would encourage you to go there. There's lots of resources. If you're an employer, that's how you're going to get your next great employee. If you're an employee looking for a company that will respect your values, go to redballoon.work. You can also follow me on LinkedIn. I try and put out meaningful content every day about how to get a good job and how to live a great life.
Awesome. Andrew, appreciate your time, man. Well done. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me.